So, my dears, here we are. And it is a good place to be in this moment now, and on such a wonderful day. I think we forget sometimes the real meaning of All Hallows Eve. We get caught up in the fun of it, in the goodies of it, in the lightness of it all, it's a surface lightness. And I think very, very few of us really get the in-depth meaning of Halloween. It's not a night to be feared. It's really not a night of ghosts and goblins and all of that. It is the night in the season of Sauna, which is the Celtic autumnal season, but the end of that season, where autumn moves into winter. And everybody's very well aware of the changes that occur, and that death and life are one and the same thing. They're the other side of the one coin. And so it's difficult to see the import of it all, and the amazement of it all, and the hollowness of it all. And it's so difficult. It's okay. It really is okay. We're having a bad moment. Let's everybody know for this wonderful little boy that all is well. That all is well. All is well. We love the children to come. Sometimes we're all like that. We're moany. We can't do like children, though. We can't just show it. And so we swallow it, and it makes it worse. And that's why I said one day in a supermarket to a little fellow that was kicking his heels up and screaming, and his mother was so embarrassed. I said, "You do it. Go on. Really kick. Really scream. You let it all out. Get it all out. Because when you grow up, you won't be able to do that." Of course, he stopped instantly. I spoiled it for him. I interrupted it. Oh, children are wonderful. But on this day of days, you and I are invited. We're invited to look at our lives and to see them for what they are in the moment now and what could be better. Because what was celebrated by the ancient Celts at that time was the awareness that the seasons taught us something. And they taught us when one thing is finished, that has to be finished up so the new thing can begin. So at that time of the year, they would spend contemplation time on what was dead in their lives. And they're not just talking about the wonderful, beautiful people they had lost during the year, which they did celebrate too. But, what could we now be prepared to let go of so they can walk into the light out of the darkness of deadness? And whether it's a dead relationship, or whether it's a dead idea in your own mind, or whether it's, a dead situation you're in, or a dead job that you're in, whatever it is, people got the opportunity to look at that and to see if they were ready to move out of the darkness of that into something much more light-filled. And they would. And they would light candles. They would light candles on that day to honor their loved ones and those who had passed over, because they didn't even think of them as dead. They knew that the two worlds were very closely intertwined. And that's the night. This is the night when the veil between the two dimensions is the thinnest of all. The thinnest of all. And so they honored that. And so there was a lot of great contemplation went on this day. On this day. There was celebration too, but it was mostly about being contemplative and looking to your life, see what was alive in your life and appreciating that and making a decision to support that, and see what was dead in your life and be willing to let go of it, whatever it is, you know, pair of old dead shoes or whatever. But they let go of everything of that nature, person, place, or thing. And so we learn much from All Hallows Eves. It's a very misunderstood celebration, and it is a celebration, and we've lost it in the mythological understanding of, you know, bogeymen and ghosts and goblins and scary stuff and so forth. But actually, if you put your mind to it, put your inner ear to it, you can have wonderful experiences of the other dimension when you are knowing that there's nothing to be afraid of, nothing about fear, nothing to be afraid of. And so, as you know, I mean, the cultures then were very superstitious, extremely superstitious. So all of the stories came out of the superstitions, you know. And they had no electricity in those days. Everything was really dark. And I can remember as a small child driving home from the country when we visited relatives. When you drove up some of those country roads and all those big trees were, leaning over you, and the flashlights, the headlights of the car created all kinds of spooky. I used to bury my head under the rug. I used to bury my head under the rug that my mother had covering me, and it was spooky. So you know, and I know, that the mortal mind can lead us a merry chase and have us think all kinds of things when all kinds of things are not there. So what is it in this day for you and for me? What is there in this day for you and for me? Oh, indeed, there is a field beyond all wrongdoing and right doing. And I'll meet you there, where the soul lies down in the grass is the next line. So to go to that field, the soul has to lie down in the grass. And in that field then, it's very, very clear that this world is very transitory and very temporary, and that we need not bother ourselves over delving into beliefs, concepts, and so on, because they don't exist in that field beyond division, beyond dualism. They just don't. So I think that that's a field that you and I could visit a bit more often. Especially when you and I are troubled and challenged, and life is awkward, and life is difficult, and life is painful. To go there, to lie down in that grass, let the soul lie down in that grass, and discover that all is perfectly well. Everything is as it's supposed to be. And on the outer world, you can leave that when you enter into the inner world, if what's going on out there is not to your liking. Each individual is a very, very metaphysical, spiritualized aspect of the divine. And because we're not at one with that, we get into all kinds of frustrations because we live in the shallows and we never go into the depths, or rarely. We do get ourselves into trouble. What are we afraid of? Good Lord, there are people who can't be in a house without some noise on. And not just in one room, but in every room. There's so many of us fall asleep at night with the television blaring. Very not good. We all know about Blu-ray light and all of that. That's not a good thing. We set ourselves up to be discomforted in so many ways. In so many ways. And that's why we can't get along with each other. Because we're scared and afraid. And when you're scared and afraid, you make up all kinds of stories in your head about people, persons, places, and things. And most of what you're making up is not true. Not at all. So instead of worrying and ruminating about everything out there, persons, places, and things, put a little bit more focus on ourselves, on the interior self of ourselves, and let the light that is within us through each and every person in this room today and looking in and everywhere else is a portal of light, a portal. But you have to open it from the inside. You see, that's the kicker. The portal has to be opened from the inside to let it out. This light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. We sing that all the time. I drop the little when I sing it. I just say, this light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Oh, this light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Now, if I could sing, you'd never get out of here. So, when are you going to let your light shine? Is the question. You are the light of the world. God help us all, we are. So how is your light doing? What kind of a candle are you? You know? Because it's dark days. Dark days in many ways. So who's going to light up the dark days then? You think it's them out there? You think some great Savior's coming? Well, yes, some great Savior is coming, and it happens to be you. So, for heaven's sake, can we all just make up our minds every day to be a light and not a spreader of darkness? And what causes us all to be a spreader of darkness? Fear. It's always fear. Fear is always at the root of everything. Fear, anxiety, uncertainty, lack of real knowledge. That's what niggles at us, puts us at each other. That's what makes up stories in our heads about each other. And we're so wrong most of the time. So what do we do when that happens? Because it's going to happen to us. We have to cast the burden upon the Christ within and go free of it. We have to say, oh, for heaven's sake, Spirit, here I go again. I'm not able for this. I'm not equal to this, so you take over. And you, by means of me, show up in the way I'm going to think about this, and the way I'm going to feel about this, and the way I'm going to respond to this. There's no other way. There really is no other way. And until we find that way, we will make one mistake after the other. Not necessarily intentionally, but our fear will have us think what is not true. And we will base judgment on what is not true. And we live so much in the shallows that we just make up our minds about what we hear or what somebody else says, and we believe them. We don't do any investigation ourselves at all. Have you noticed that all of the greatest realized sages and saints amongst us were totally outside of judgment? They really were. Reverend Catherine told some nice story this morning. And there are many people like that. I mean, if you look at it, Nelson Mandela, was such a person. He so befriended his jailers that they all came to respect him and trust him and go to him for advice. Mother Teresa. There wasn't a negative thought in that woman's mind. All she was there to do was serve and make some individual's life lighter, especially children. And I can go through a whole list of them. And there's such wonderful examples for us all. Wonderful examples for us all. And do you think that Mother Teresa was engaged in politics and everything else? She didn't have any time for that. Her thought was all about, how can I take care of this very sick child? How can I help people to put food on the plate of their children, etc.? She didn't have time for it. And all the people who genuinely became sainted, it wasn't because they promoted themselves, I can assure you. They had no time for that. They were too busy and occupied doing what they were doing, which was to make the world a better place. And you have your own heroines and heroes in your own life. And you look at those people and you say, I don't know how they do it. And I have known people in every walk of life who are like that. They live their lives making life better for someone or several or for all. That's how they live their lives. And they didn't get up and they didn't plan it. They just got up in the day, and then when they heard about a need or saw a need or a need cross their paths, they just endeavored to meet it. So I'm saying to you that this is your day. This All Hallows Eve is your day, the day you get to celebrate the light in your life, the day you get to celebrate all the love in your life, present now and present in the next dimension from loved ones. You get to celebrate that today. So I'm going to recommend that we all light a candle today in thanksgiving and appreciation for all of our loved ones who have gone before us. And then we light another candle in celebration of our own light when we get it right, and that feeling we have. Light a candle to yourself. I tell you, it's going to make a difference. Light a candle, put it in front of your picture, and know that light is mine. I am that light. I tell you, these little things make all the difference. I don't know how many of you are going to do that, but if you do, you'll find it has a deep effect on you. Light a candle. And you know what? Its light is not going to affect you alone. It's going to affect all life. So I would say, know with me that regardless of how difficult life gets, and all of its challenges, and all of its ailments, etc., you are here significantly on purpose, deliberately, to make the difference in this world. And you can do it. And when you're on your last bit of energy, it's going to be the hardest time for you to remind yourself of that. But nevertheless, that's why you're here, and that's what you are while you're here. The difference between the darkness and the light, because you are a light bearer, and that's what we celebrate today. That's what we celebrate today. So, know this with me right now, and say after me, in this moment now, whether I have thought it, whether I have believed it or not, I'm opening myself to knowing that I am here on purpose, and I am here to fulfill that purpose, and I don't do it on my own. When I consciously connect with Spirit and invite Spirit's guidance. Spirit does it through me. And that's the truth. And so it is. So give yourself a round of applause. I mean, really, like you believe it. It's a great good day, and you're great and good in it. And now I have all these wonderful people coming forward here, dressed in Halloween-y stuff. I love it. And we're not doing it the pagan way. We know what we're doing. We're celebrating it because it's a common celebration. Oh, I think I left my envelope on the counter, so I'll put it in. Doris will make sure I put my envelope in. We're grateful as we do this. Take our gift between our blessing hands and say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, to prosper. All those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good. I release my gift with love. So it is. And so, my dear ones, we have Reverend Catherine coming now, and she's going to share something with us.
Good morning, everyone. This is where we share how our mission statement is being fulfilled by our center. One of the most important arms of our spiritual community is our healing ministry. And this is a letter from someone who was the recipient of their work. Thank you for putting me on your healing ministry. Please know that I am grateful for all of the prayers. I know that many in this prayer group don't even know me, but prayed for me anyway because they understand how prayer works. My situation was dire at the time. Within a day or so, all was resolved, and I am in peace and joy with the outcome. Thank you so much.
Sharing. I mean, really, isn't that wonderful? And that's why I say to each one of you, do not hesitate, please, to send in a prayer request. Just send in the prayer request, and you can dial a little prayer. It's a short prayer because the thing only records for a minute, but sometimes it's all you need just to plug you in. And we're grateful for all of you who are joining us online. And, you're very much a part of our gathering. And we appreciate all the goodness and all the kindness and all the good thoughts you've been thinking throughout the week. They're all making the difference. And so, of course, next week we have Memorial Sunday. And that's when we remember our loved ones who have passed on and we celebrate them. So if you can be here, it would be a lovely thing. And the custom is usually that we bring a flower and bring it up, and I have a basket, and you put it in the basket. And then we put them in water and celebrate them in that way. And it's a lovely thing. It's very meaningful. I find it very meaningful anyway. I'm glad to have that opportunity. The light in the pumpkin, by the way, is indicating the light of Halloween and the light within each one of us. And it's not to be overlooked. So we're going to have our prayer now, and in this prayer, we're really going to truly and deeply know peace in our lives and peace in all people's lives, and the healing of hurts and the lifting of darkness so that there can be light. For all who suffer in any way, we're knowing the truth that sets them free. So we pray. I know divine love enfolds me. Divine light leads me. Divine life lives in me. Divine wisdom inspires me. Divine compassion expresses through me. And divine power protects me. all that I am is Spirit's life and expression. It is good and very good, with deep joy and generosity filling me. I go forward now in sacred service, supporting a compassionate world that works for everyone. I move through my days with grace and ease, in peace and love, in health and wellness, in fullness and plenty, and in loving relationship with all. What I now know for myself, with blessing and in deep gratitude, I know for all life. There's only God. There's only God. There is only God. And that God shows up by means of me. And so it is. So indeed it is. And so, my dear ones, I want to thank you for all the good out there in the world that you're doing. I want you to understand that we're so deeply, deeply grateful to you for your support and for your loyalty and for your sustaining of your spiritual community, because we want this spiritual community to be a long legacy for the folks to come, as all the other generations of us have ensured. And so without you, we couldn't be. That's how essential and important you all are. Know that you are quite capable of taking care of your own affairs, and that the only thing life has in store for you is good, unless we interrupt that. I have come that you may have life and have it in abundance. I have come that your joy may be complete. I mean, really, do we ever take these words seriously? And that you may know the peace that passes understanding. So let peace reign in our hearts, and love triumph in our world. And may each and every one in this room flourish, prosper, thrive in a healthy, happy environment. So are we ready? Do you know what you're ready for? Oh, I'm glad you do. So I leave it at that. Anyway, it's all good, whatever it is, and we're going to have our peace song now. So we're going to sing our peace song, and then we will meet outside for a good